My family is moving in. If you don't accept it, we're done. He didn't whisper it. He declared it, standing in the middle of our rented living room like a landlord serving notice. The late afternoon sun cut across the carpet between us, dust floating in the light, as if even the air had paused to hear him. His mother's voice echoed from the speakerphone on the kitchen counter. His sister laughed softly in the background. They were already planning where their furniture would go. Our furniture. I was still holding the grocery bag I'd just brought in. The handles dug into my fingers. Eggs cracked softly against each other inside the carton. If you don't accept it, we're done, he repeated, slower this time. Like I was a child refusing medicine. 3 years of marriage reduced to a condition. I looked at the hallway we had painted together. At the couch I paid half for. At the quiet life we had carefully built. Then we're done, I said. And just like that, the marriage ended before the sun finished setting. I was 32, meticulous and quietly ambitious, the kind of woman who calculated risks while smiling through small indignities. My husband, Michael, had always seemed impressed by my calm efficiency but never by the effort it took to maintain it. He thrived on attention. I was background noise, invisible until convenient. Before him, I built a life that required no validation, a career in design, an apartment of my own, friendships that didn't demand performance. Yet somehow in marriage I had slipped into the role of accommodating shadow, the wife who nodded, smiled, and smoothed over tensions that weren't mine to fix. Family gatherings became exercises in being overlooked. His mother praising my cooking while ignoring my ideas, his sister correcting my words mid-sentence as if I had no authority to speak. I had learned to fold my pride into polite laughter, to endure small betrayals with a quiet patience that most mistook for weakness. I carried a ledger in my mind, a tally of micro-insults, compromises, and being underestimated. Each one was a stone in a pile I hid behind my measured calm. And that quiet collection would soon do more than whisper, it would strike. The first time I noticed it, Michael's mother lingered in the doorway longer than necessary, her eyes scanning the apartment like she owned it already. "Oh, you bought that brand?" she murmured, voice soft but dripping with judgment, as if I'd mismanaged the grocery budget. I smiled politely and nodded, feeling the weight of her scrutiny settle like dust on my shoulders. His sister had a habit of answering questions I hadn't asked yet, correcting my sentences mid-air with a tilt of her chin. She would laugh quietly, a sound that implied I was amusingly incompetent rather than informed. Michael never intervened. He leaned back on the sofa, phone in hand, thumbs scrolling, as if our voices were background noise in his curated world. At dinner, subtle comments became habitual. A pause before acknowledging my work. A sigh when I offered suggestions. The way they would rearrange the couch cushions I had placed just so, claiming it looked better this way. Each gesture was small, almost polite but precise, a constant erosion of presence. I learned to note every glance, every tone, every pause. They were faint cracks in a wall I had thought sturdy. And as the sun fell across our living room, the fractures became impossible to ignore. The tension was building quietly, invisibly, until the collapse felt inevitable. I was folding laundry one evening when it hit me, a quiet, undeniable clarity. Michael was sprawled on the sofa, his mother beside him, laughing at a joke I hadn't heard. I held a shirt in my hands, the fabric warm from the dryer, and realized I didn't recognize the life around me anymore. Every compromise, every small dismissal, every polite nod that hid my frustration, it had led here. To this. I thought of the little ledger in my mind, every slight meticulously recorded. The rearranged furniture. The corrected sentences. The eyes that skimmed over me as if I were a shadow. I tolerated all of it, thinking endurance was strength. But endurance had left me invisible. And suddenly the choice was simple, continue to shrink or step out before I was erased entirely. That night I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I packed the essentials quietly, methodically, leaving a note on the kitchen counter. No dramatics, no ultimatums. Just a calm, deliberate exit. The click of the door behind me felt louder than any shouting ever could. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for permission. I was claiming it. The pivot wasn't a storm, it was a measured, silent decision, and it felt unstoppable. I didn't rush. I never do. Leaving Michael and his family behind was just the first move. The game required patience, calculation, and a quiet attention to detail. I reviewed every financial document we shared, every contract I had signed, and every account I had access to. Years in design had honed my eye for patterns. Years in life had honed my instinct for leverage. I consulted a lawyer discreetly, framing questions as general inquiries rather than personal grievances. I learned the precise ways the family relied on Michael financially, the subtle dependencies no one ever mentioned aloud. I traced debts, unpaid loans, and guarantees. Each number, each clause, was a small tool I could use without confrontation, without drama. I closed off all shared accounts, redirected automatic payments, and set up alerts. I documented everything: conversations, text messages, receipts, with meticulous timestamps. Nothing impulsive, nothing emotional. Every action was calculated to let consequences unfold naturally. I moved forward quietly, watching, waiting. Every financial misstep they made, every reliance on him would ripple outward. I didn't need to confront anyone. I just needed to step aside and let logic and their own decisions do the work. By the time they realized, it would be too late to reverse. The revenge was silent, surgical, and inevitable. Months passed and I didn't call. I didn't text. I simply watched from a distance, letting the structure I had quietly dismantled do its work. Michael struggled first, overdrafts creeping into accounts I had closed, bills bouncing silently into his inbox. His mother's voice on speakerphone became sharper, tinged with panic. The laughter he once relied on vanished, replaced by frantic conversations about money he no longer controlled. I attended a design exhibit across town, sipping coffee while my phone buzzed silently with alerts. Overdrafts, missed payments, collections. I didn't read them all, I didn't need to. Each ping was a note in a symphony of consequences I had composed. I imagined the living room he had once declared as ours, now filled with tension, arguments, and uncomfortable silence. The family he had forced into my life began to realize they had leaned on someone unprepared, someone who could no longer cushion them. One evening, I walked past our old neighborhood, sunlight catching on the edges of windows I had once polished, memories of shared meals flickering across my mind. A quiet satisfaction settled in my chest. I hadn't yelled. I hadn't schemed publicly. I had simply stepped aside and watched inevitability take its course. The payoff was silent, devastating, and perfectly calibrated. The fallout was gradual, almost cinematic in its precision. Michael's mother called repeatedly, her voice cracking with frustration, demanding explanations he couldn't provide. His sister's laughter vanished, replaced by sharp, defensive tones in group chats. Friends who once visited casually now exchanged awkward glances when he mentioned bills or favors, sensing the tension they had never noticed before. I heard fragments through mutual acquaintances, stories of missed payments, strained friendships, awkward apologies. His reputation, once polished by charm and inherited connections, began to crack under the weight of neglected responsibilities. People who had depended on him now questioned his reliability. For me, the impact was quieter but profound. I reclaimed more than space, I reclaimed agency. My self-worth, long eroded by constant diminishment, rebuilt itself in measured increments. I slept easier, smiled more freely, and walked without the subtle tension of being invisible in my own life. This matters because it isn't just about money or vindication. It's about noticing the small betrayals, the repeated dismissals that eat away at who you are. It's a reminder that silence, patience, and strategic action can restore balance when relationships become toxic, and that walking away is sometimes the most powerful act of all. I never celebrated the collapse. There was no champagne, no vindictive gloating. There was only quiet, deliberate breathing as I unpacked my new apartment, arranging books, plants, and a small coffee table exactly where I wanted them. Each object was a marker of control regained, a subtle testament to the life I had silently rebuilt. I reflected often on the lessons hidden in the months of tension, the betrayals, the small erasures. Patience, observation, and careful planning had taught me more about strength than any argument or confrontation ever could. I had learned to value my own voice, to respect the limits of endurance, and to trust that consequences can unfold naturally when guided by logic rather than anger. The future feels uncharted but promising. I've started a new project at work that challenges me creatively, and friendships deepen with those who truly see me. The space I occupy is mine, not borrowed, not contested. Occasionally, I pass by the street where Michael once lived. I don't linger. I only smile at the memory, knowing the quiet decisions I made spoke louder than any words ever could. And in that calm certainty, I finally understood. Some victories are silent, but their echoes last a lifetime.